That was it. Okay. Nice, right? How are you guys? Good to see all of you. Oh my goodness, so many awesome faces. People I haven't seen in a little while, and people I see all the while. And so just give yourselves a round of applause. This is an amazing occurrence. You know, something that's very special about this room is every week we get to see an incredible melting pot of people from all over the world. Wouldn't you agree? I think at the Christmas concert we counted dozens and dozens of countries, and I was missing some. So from all over South America and Asia and all different parts of the US. And that's something that I think is universally understood as something that is sort of kind of like a heaven on earth, right? Kind of like a heaven on earth. And I think the world kind of knows it wants this. It knows that. We want a better world, do we not? Most people do. The problem is the route and the way to get to a better world is the hard part. People have all different ideas about what that means, how to get there, right? All you got to do is turn on the TV for like 5 minutes and you hear people shouting over each other and different things and different ideas of how we're going to get to the better world, right? So you're going to hear somebody say, open borders, better world, open borders. You're going to hear the other side say, low taxes. That's all we need is low taxes. That's the better world. You're going to hear some of us go, Bitcoin, better world, crypto. Right, guys? But it's very passionate. People are heated. And all the hubbub is about that. How are we going to get to the better world? We kind of all want it, don't we? And so I like to kind of share something about this. We're kind of reevaluating what it means to be a nation, what their relationships mean. We're also evaluating what it means to be even just a U.S. citizen. And people are fighting pretty hard about how are we going to define these things. But if you go right back to the New Testament, you're going to find something that clears a lot of this up. That the first and foremost thing is that we need to be citizens of heaven. And it sounds like a vague concept, and I would like to break it down and look at it for you. The Bible tells us so clearly, especially in the book of Romans and other parts of the New Testament, Romans 5, I think it is, that first and foremost, you need peace with God. So you can do anything you want on the surface, but if you don't have peace with God, you won't have peace on earth. And it's true. It makes so much sense. So if you think about it, all the laws and the policies that might change, and let's be real, usually they change one way for 4 or 8 years, right? And then they swing another way, and then they go back, and then they go forth. But all the policies and all the things you can change cannot make you have peace with your family. So what good is it, right? That's what I was thinking. So what if we go for, we go for total free education for everyone. Let's go there. Free education for everyone solves the world's problems, right? What good is all the education in the world if you don't have peace in your family, with your children, with your siblings? Like Andres is being such a good dad right now. That's me most of the day, carrying the baby around. What good is 3 PhDs if you can't do that? You hear me? 3 PhDs paid for by your parents or paid for by the government, it doesn't matter if you can't do that. What good is it to have the 6-figure job if you don't have peace in your marriage? So we have to remember that in the Garden of Eden, Genesis tells us all the conditions were perfect, yet mankind still chose to betray God. So as long as we continue working on the conditions, sure, that might help a little bit, but there's a root deeper. We need to have peace with God. Peace with God, hearing God's direction for us is number one. So the kind of change we need in the world, I can say to you very clearly and very surely, is the kind of change in the heart. It's the kind of change that God can bring. It's only God can bring. And let's think about this. I have examples as I was kind of brainstorming this morning about all of this. If you have a problem in your family, and believe me, I have been there, me and my parents when I was teenagers, oh boy. And remember when my mom was here a couple of weeks, and I was like, wasn't I a rebellious teenager, Mom? She was like, no, you were fine. And she's lying. That's not true. I was not fine. I gave my parents a lot of grief, a lot of grief. If you have a problem in your family, are you going to fix it by changing a U.S. law? Or your marriage? If you have a problem in your marriage, are you going to fix it by changing a law? Right? So we have to pay close attention to this. What if the law changes? I was thinking about all this. What if the law changes tomorrow? Think of yourself. If you are happily married, you have found your soulmate, this is for you. If you are going to find your soulmate and you will be happily married, this is also for you. So it's for everybody. Imagine you and your soulmate, the one you will be with forever. If a law changes tomorrow that says, if you divorce your spouse permanently, we'll give you a $10,000 tax credit. Would you do it? What about a $50,000 tax credit? Would you do it? No. Thank you, $20. Little audience participation in here today, yeah. You couldn't pay millions of dollars. When you really found the right family situation, you couldn't pay millions and millions and millions of dollars. For me, that's true. Tens of millions, hundreds of millions, it doesn't matter. I have a baby to take care of. I have a lineage now. I have a wife. And nothing can incentivize me to break that. You hear me? So think about this. It doesn't matter what laws pass right now in America. It does not even matter to me because I'm not going to leave this family. I'm going to stay in it. I'm committed. And notice the phenomena of what just happened. I no longer am under the constraint of U.S. law. I am under the constraint of the heaven law. I'm a citizen of heaven. That's what governs me. And that's what we mean when we're talking about creating a citizen of heaven. It's a kind of a funny sounding phrase, to be honest. Citizen of heaven. Well, how does that sounds kind of abstract. What's governing you on the inside? That's your citizenry. That's your citizenry. And the Bible kind of is pretty radical because they're saying faith liberates you from the law, and it's all over the New Testament. It's a really interesting concept. But then they backpedal a little bit and they say, well, guys, don't go overthrowing governments and burning down Caesar. You still have to pay your taxes. You still have to listen to the law. So the phrase that came to me today was, the law still applies to you, but it doesn't define you. It doesn't define you. If the law changes, it will not define your inner character. You still get your inner character from something else. The laws that's governing your life. You guys hear me, right? You follow me? This is in Philippians 3:20. But our citizenship is in heaven, and we eagerly await a Savior from there, the Lord Jesus Christ. So this is a concept that many preachers in Christianity are exploring. What is your citizenship really? And so I have to say this. It doesn't matter where you're a citizen. Because now we're saying, well, I guess the laws could change, the country could change, the geography could change, but I'm not going to change if I'm hooked into something higher, something moral, something that guides me with virtue. And that is my problem with the idea of addressing the world's problems in this kind of material world. You can have all the open borders you want, but you still could have borders in your heart. You could have borders right in the heart. And I saw that. I lived in New York City. I lived in the Bronx. And I saw every single day or every single week really bad stuff going down, stuff that I can't even describe here. We're talking about shootings, stabbings, muggings, all the time. Every week there was stuff. And there was stuff that wasn't even making the news, and I would walk by it on my way to school. And those of you who might know the backstory, but I was this verifies that I was a bad kid, because my mom told me, don't go to New York, it's dangerous. I said, I'm gonna go anyway. Then she said, well, okay, fine, but don't go to the Bronx. I went and got an apartment in the Bronx. Then she said, well, don't go to Harlem, that's the worst. And I went to school in Harlem. So my entire life was commuting between the Bronx and Harlem for like years and years and years. And I saw so much. I saw so much about how this very situation we have in the room right now, so many different kinds of people in one space, is so hard to achieve, actually. I saw people from all over the world living right next to each other in the same building. You had the Venezuelans, the Puerto Ricans, the Dominicans, you had the Colombians, you had African Americans, you had people from Africa, you had Russians, you had Greeks, and they were all in the same neighborhood, Kingsbridge. That's my neighborhood in the Bronx. And you could put all the colors of the rainbow in one place and still have total chaos. And I was thinking about that. We're filled, especially with, if you pay attention a little too much to all the noise out there, TV networks and such, we're filled with all this anxiety and concern about the borders or who's thousands of miles away. But have you thought about the person who's on the other side of the railroad track? That's a border too. You know what I'm talking about. Hey, there's parts of Sunrise that are not so great. Right here, there's parts of Sunrise that are probably suffering. It's usually a railroad track, right? Don't we have one on 441 somewhere? Just on the other side of the railroad track, that's a border. We don't go there so much sometimes. We don't think about those people, do we? Sometimes we don't think about them. I'll admit to that. So there are borders in your heart, regardless of where you live and what you do. The laws do not define you guys. That's the main home message. And I'll take it one further, actually. Let's take it one further. If the laws don't define you, then who you vote for doesn't define you, because they're the lawmakers. And who agrees with me with that? The law doesn't define you, and who you vote for does not define you morally, spiritually in your soul. I could tell you who doesn't agree with me. Just about 99% of TV news media. They do not agree with that statement. You understand that, right? They want to convince you your soul is corrupted and wrong if you don't have the same political opinions as whatever that channel is. It doesn't even matter. Right? So think about that. The political differences, or differences of religion, or anything else. And there's so much shame. I'm thinking about the word shame this week. There's so much shame, 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 shame. God ain't about the shame life, guys. He's not about it. You think about Jesus, who found that they took the woman to Jesus in adultery, right? And said, aren't you going to stone this woman to death? And it was such a trick question, right? Because if he does that, then he gets in trouble with Caesar, because only Caesar can capitally punish. So they were trying to basically get Jesus thrown in jail or something. They were trying to catch him. Jesus didn't throw not a hair of shame towards that woman. He said, he started with, I do not condemn you. I do not condemn you, but go and sin no more. That just warm your heart? That's the true parental place. Don't be ashamed. You can do better, though. Don't be, but you can do better. And so we have to disassociate a little bit. That's what I want to encourage you. I want to end on a final note, which is we need to tune a little bit out. We need to tune a little bit out of the hubbub and the noise and tune back into God's frequency. And it sounds kind of vague, but what God's frequency is to me is pay attention to your tribe. Pay attention to your family, your people. Because we're filling ourselves with anxiety and stress about things that are so far away from us, but there's people right here across the street that we could be fixing their window. We could be, fixing their car. We could be bringing them to church. We could be buying them a meal. That's the frequency of God. That's why I love the term that we have. There's a term we always use now, which is the Messiah of your tribe. You can focus on that. That's your frequency. That's God's frequency. Because God prepared you with so many talents and your physical attributes and your life experience and all the things, you can use them. Generally, if you're not a multi-billionaire, you're not just going to go have a TV station tomorrow, but the things that you can do, let's start doing them. And I found a weird little sense in myself, a fallacy in myself, where I thought, I have to be a billionaire to make a difference in the world. Does anybody ever feel like that? I know I do. I do. You have to be a billionaire to make a real difference. Once I'm a billionaire, I can have all the charities and the foundations and all the things that'll make the world better. And that is simply not true. You have people right now in your life, every one of you has people in your life who you mean the world to. That's your tribe, and that's what you can start doing now. You can tap right in to making that part of the world better. Another thought I was thinking is, I think maybe it's because of all the movies, I don't know, Spider-Man and all these great movies. It's like we have this concept that the world has to be saved by this one hero in a jumpsuit. That's how the world's going to be saved. One person with magical powers. When truth could be that the world will be saved in little fragments. Your part of the world, Rodney, is going to be saved because of you. And your part because of you. And we become fragments that save the world in tiny pieces, modularly. I want to give you this quote from Ezekiel, which I love, because it talks about giving you a new heart. This is how you can see the new world. Just change new world for new heart. Ezekiel 26:28. I will give you a new heart. This is God speaking to Ezekiel. I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit in you and move you to follow my decrees and be careful to keep my laws. Then you will live in the land I gave your ancestors. You will be my people. Sounds like citizenry, right? You will be my people, and I will be your God. I will save you from all your uncleanness. I will call for the grain and make it plentiful and will not bring famine upon you. I will increase the fruit of the trees and the crops of the field so that you will no longer suffer disgrace among the nations. God's saying, I can fix the problems, guys. I can bring the fruit of the trees. When I read this, I was like, holy cow. I will save you from your uncleanness. I will call for the grain and make it plentiful. I will not bring famine upon. I will increase the fruit of the trees. So world starvation, maybe God can just fix it. But we got to come to that level, right? Peace with God. There's no peace without peace with God. So I want to encourage you all to tune into that frequency more and more as you go in to your daily life. You have a slice of the world that you're meant to save. It's your people, it's your relationships, and it's really hard work. It's not easy. I know just one person can be hard. So I want to encourage you all. I love all of you. Thank you for all your wishes and prayers as I have this journey with my newborn. I really appreciate all of it, and just have a blessed week. Thank you very much.